Hello, everyone, and welcome to a bonus segment of the Brothers Take. I am Chris. I'm joined by my brother Eric.
Hello.
And we are here, as the title suggests, to give our spoiler-filled thoughts on Separate Ways, the DLC for Resident Evil 4 Remake. We are now in October. It's spooky time, spooky season, and let's talk about this awesome DLC for this awesome fucking game. And just right off the bat, spoiler warning. So we are talking about this as if you have played it. So if you haven't, maybe go play it. It's not that long, and then come back and listen to the discussion. But if you have played it, welcome to the discussion. And please do get in touch to share your own thoughts on this experience and this reimagining of the Ada campaign from the classic game. But Eric, now that we can talk about this not so vaguely, because last time we were talking about it kind of vaguely, because Adam was on and he hadn't played it.
Still probably hasn't played it.
And it was non-spoiler anyway. It was only impressions of it. But now that we can talk specifically, what did you think of the DLC?
I really liked it because it's not too short that you're kind of like, you get it, like you can get it done in one sitting, but which is okay for DLC, but it's still quite a decent length, I think, for it. I think it's quite well paced as it goes, that it doesn't drag on for too long, but it's also not like really short. Also quite well priced, really, for everything you are getting in it. It's amazingly priced. I've seen that, like, Ubisoft could look at that and take note that it's like, no. Like, so this was €10 for us. I don't know if it was 10 across the board for everybody.
Right.
But like Ubisoft could look at that and go, that's not the price of like some cosmetic items for like your latest fucking Ghost Recon game. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
€10 and you're getting this. I mean, I cleared it in 5-6 hours, maybe right. Less, maybe less hours.
Totally unusual for Resident Evil, anyway.
No. Like probably between 4 to 5 hours. But
this is a series that's famous for people speedrunning them, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can clear this in under 2 hours as one of the challenges.
Sure.
And I mean, so it comes with its own challenges. It's now a staple to the Resident Evil games to have challenges for replay value. It has its own challenges. It has its own models to unlock, its own costumes for everybody. Again, that's become a thing for Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4.
You can unlock the classic dress.
I cleared it when I was doing the second time. I was wearing the classic dress, and I had Lucera wear the classic.
How cool is it? Because I haven't gone into the second playthrough.
It is a bit different, right? Because it's not fully red. There is a bit of black on it, but it still stands to this day as one of the most beautiful dresses I've ever seen.
It's so
in my
cool.
entire life. It's awesome.
So cool. Yeah.
It's ridiculous because
there's a line that I missed that it's not in the base game, and I really thought with how much was in Separate Ways, I was like, oh, it's going to be in here, and I thought it was going to be at the part where like there's a bit where you're playing as Ada and you got to chase down Krauser, right? And obviously Ada and Krauser have a much more bitter rivalry in the original.
Yes,
that they don't play with here at all, right?
No,
which is okay. Like, I'm actually glad that you don't fight Krauser, because I always thought that felt like just a shoe-in a little bit in the original. Where
just kind of forcing a last boss fight in there.
Yeah, and it was like, Leon killed Krauser, and Leon and Krauser had that history. And like, I liked the back and forth between Krauser and Ada, but I didn't see Krauser as Ada's arch enemy. So I like that he's not this time around. However, I would have liked one interaction with them, because I was waiting for the line, oh, it's the bitch in the red dress. Like, I was waiting for that line.
Yeah, it's a good line, but unfortunately with the redesign of Ada, it doesn't work.
It's still a red dress.
It's a red jumper.
Operating as a dress, like,
it's a long jumper. It's not quite.
I think he could have said the line.
She's wearing an hoodie. She's wearing an hoodie without the hood. That's what she's wearing.
That's not what that is. It is a red dress. It's a red dress. It's a different material and style to the old dress. It's still a red dress. It's cozier.
It's one of those long jumpers that women wear. Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a dress, but
The one in two is a dress.
it's cool. It looks cool, I think. I like Ada's design.
It's a covert jumper.
So obviously, yeah, Krauser isn't the arch enemy this time around, but they've given her an arch enemy in separate ways.
Yes, and he's very cool. It's a very cool addition because that's
this is
not
the thing,
in the original at all.
at all. This is the thing I was talking about, where it's like they've added something new that's really interesting, and I feel like some people won't like it, but I thought it was really cool having not only the second Verdugo as your stalker enemy basically throughout the campaign, and not operating like a Nemesis or Mr. X stalker that way. Although there was one bit where I thought that was going to happen, and
I thought that was going to happen.
I was shitting a brick, but I was glad it didn't. And I kind of like that it's throughout the story he's stalking you. But not only does he then turn into it, which I thought was a really cool way of incorporating, which we said, we were like, oh, they'll probably put it in separate ways because he wasn't in the main campaign. This was a cool way of, like, oh, it's a final form of a boss rather than it just is this weird thing that is on the island that is never explained. It will take care of you. And it's like, where did that come out of? You know? So I thought that was a cool way of bringing it into it. But also the whole you're infected, and as a result you see hallucinations throughout, and you're seeing smoky versions of the robed figure kind of haunting you. I was like, this is fucking weird, but cool. Like, I dig it a lot.
Yes, no, I thought the fights were pretty cool. I thought that, him kind of, there was a moment where I thought, like, oh my God, am I going to be stalked throughout the castle, like, or something?
Right. It had you on edge that way, right?
It did, because I was expecting it to happen at some point. I'd have to sneak around, get away from him or something like that. But I did really like, I wasted so many bullets in that first fight when you're in the castle atrium.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, and it only caught to me. I was like, oh, I have flashbangs. Maybe I'd throw a flashbang, and then that kind of worked. But I had no bullets by the end of that.
But it wasted no time, right? It was like, yep, here you go. You're in the castle, and here's your enemy.
Yeah.
Go! And then you run out, and you're in a catapult sequence, and you're like, oh no. You're starting this with what was like the most annoying part of the... I think because I did say that when we were giving our first impressions, I was like, it doesn't get off to a great start, but then it picks up. And I did think that first chapter, while it was cool doing the grapple hook and all, I didn't really like the way this DLC started. Like, I didn't like that first chapter, I don't think.
No, and I don't like it as well because you leave the castle to essentially later come back to the castle.
Right, it feels weird.
Yes, while I really like in the first one, she's just in the village. The two Ganados try to attack her. She does the flippy thing. Uses the grapple hook. Like, I really liked that because it had that cheesy sort of 80s action vibe to it. But I think, if she had started in the village area first.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. Once you get to the village, it's all the rest of the experience.
It's gold.
Is paced so well, and it does. I heard someone else say that it plays more like a scenario B to the main campaign, and I was like, that is a perfect way to describe it. Where it's like,
it's very like if you've cleared Resident Evil 2 first time, and then you're doing the kind of more speed runny side of it the second time, the scenario B of Resident Evil 2. It is very like that.
But with totally new stuff to see.
Absolutely.
And some of that stuff is stuff that was missing from, the base game that, might have been, like, to the point where I got to a point where I was like, oh my God, are they going to do the Salazar statue in this? I nearly wouldn't be surprised if they did, because they're, like, there was a bit where it was too quiet, and I was like, okay, this is clearly going to go wrong, and it was in the castle, and you had to shoot these different time things, right? And then when you get the thing you need, a big drill comes out.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously, you just panic and do what you got to do. But when I got out, I was like, that's in the original, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So they just, that's what I mean by, like, oh my God, like, they moved that. Same with, like, and I was mentioning in our first impressions, my favorite, but I know I nerded out about this way more than you did. My favorite blue medallion challenge is to get Leon's jacket off one of the villagers. And when you go
Oh,
into the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
warehouse
I had a
and you
feeling it
just
was that, yeah,
yeah,
that you were talking
yeah,
about.
you go into the warehouse and you just see a villager wearing it, and I'm like, man, that's great, because that's one thing where I was like, oh, it's a shame that wasn't in the actual game. Like that was like it's a cool little thing from the original. And I think it's great that they
Yes.
made that a side mission.
You'll
That
get his jacket, yeah.
it's not that doing the mission is like really fun. There's not much to it. You're going to go in and kill those guys anyway.
Yeah, you just pick it up, go out and sell it, and then boom,
Yeah.
you completed a challenge.
It's just more so the inclusion of it just made me so happy.
Because I think that's a side thing as well. Like, I don't even think in the original game
you
you
can
are
miss it,
necessarily.
right?
Yeah, you can actually miss
Yeah.
your man wearing your jacket. I
Yeah.
think.
And they added in the ski lift thing.
They did. Yeah, that was then put onto the island.
Yeah.
So that was added in. It
That's
was obviously added in. I was glad with his fight that it wasn't the thing with the floors dropping.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There is one thing though where I quite like there's a new creature added in on the island, right? But you only learn about it just before it comes along, and it doesn't stick
Oh,
around
yeah.
long enough for
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
have any kind of impact. But like, I was dreading that, like, because I was like, what is in here? And I thought it was a really cool way of like giving a storyline to the laser hall.
Yes.
Where it's
Yeah.
like, right, we're gonna do the laser hall. How are we gonna do the laser hall? Okay, the laser hall is actually a prison to keep a creature in that we're not able to kill. Grand.
Yeah.
That's the explanation behind the
The
laser,
laser hall.
hall. Which, by the way, playing Getting Through was fucking amazing. I loved it. I was like, this is as cheesy as it is, and yes, as lame as it is, this is actually playing the sequence from the Resident Evil movie.
Yes, it was. It looked, because in the Resident Evil 4 game, it was a white hall and red lasers.
Yeah.
In the movie, then it was the glass with the blue lasers, and in this, then they took the glass hall with the blue lasers, and you were just, it was so good,
But
so
one
nice.
thing-
And that creature was, that was like Bane Arkham Origin scary to me.
Well, the reason I got, like, my heart started pounding in my chest because I got to a point where I thought it was going to be looking for me throughout the facility, and I'd have to keep hiding from it until I lead it to the laser hall, basically. So yes, I thought it was going to be the Bane Arkham Origins fight, which always has me panicking. So in a way, I was glad it wasn't. I was actually happy enough that it was just a run away from it and think fast, like just act fast. But I think the moment where she gets through the lasers at the last second and it tears him apart, I feel like that would have been more satisfying if that was it. I feel like if, as in the creature, as in the Verdugo, as in
right, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
As in, like, this was like you had that many encounters with this enemy, and how you finally finish it off is with the laser hall.
Yes, that would have been really satisfying.
Just to give it that fun, like, because it's so cool when she does it, but just to give it that kind of final, like, oh man, they used the laser hall to kill the boss, you know?
Yeah.
But I still really enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, the whole DLC is really damn good. It's probably about the length of Resident Evil 3. So for about €10, you have the same length game as Resident Evil 3. So
yeah, but you do have to own the base game too.
You do have to own the base game. Yeah.
But yeah, if you already have it, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And it's so quick to jump back in, replay the game. It's so fun to play as Ada. Like, just using the grapple hook, even in the maze garden.
Yeah.
And there's that shaman guy, and he's
motherfucker.
He's so annoying, but using the grapple to, like, get over the walls and try to maneuver everyone is such a fun, cool, like, mechanic, and using that to get around places, using that to, like, when you shoot an enemy and they go down. While with Leon, you have to run over and punch him. With Ada, you just grapple over and you punch him. Or you can get you buy charms and you attach them onto your cases. One of her charms is, well, it's a model of her in the red dress. And you just yank the shield. That is so fucking handy. You yank the shield anyway and start shooting them. I was like, there's so much interesting ways of redesigning how Ada plays that plays to her strengths, but doesn't make her quite like Leon.
Yeah. And based on what she has, it's like, right, so she has a grapple gun. How are we going to use this in gameplay? The way they use the grapple gun through it, I love.
Yeah.
It not only allows her to skip areas or get through areas quicker, so that they could streamline the experience, but yeah, the way they use it in combat is like so fun. And using it for that El Gigante boss fight to just zip up onto roofs and shoot from above, and then he attacks the building, you jump off, zip line up onto the other one. I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like, I love that.
It's absolutely, he fucking demolishes those buildings. It is a very cool cinematic fight. Like,
well, it's. I was like, how do you top the, because the El Gigante fight in the village section in the base game of the remake is so cinematic anyway, where it's picking up shit and throwing trees and everything. It's like, how do you top that? I think this tops it. I think this is a better fight, even though yes, well, okay, hard to beat that dog though.
The dog's pretty good.
The dog moment is with the lightning behind it was just incredible, but I just remembered how good that was. Oh my god, this is like so yeah. Outside of like, I know you're playing Baldur's Gate 3 and it's probably the game of the year, but otherwise it's gotta be, like Resident Evil 4 was
just
so
because
good,
of that one
man.
dog.
So good.
Yeah, but Baldur's Gate 3 also has a dog that you can talk to and play fetch.
Well, sure then. The graphics and performance throughout are just, I had no bugs, no.
Oh,
like,
God, no.
The polish on this experience is just fucking amazing. What did you think of? And there was another new gameplay mechanic brought in that I think suits Ada, but and I said in their impressions like, oh, there's kind of Arkham vibes here.
Iris?
The contact lens that picks up, that puts her into detective mode, basically. What do you think of that?
Very Ada, but I almost would have liked, because it's in the original, the shades. In the original, she drops the shades and it has a little timer, it becomes a flashbang. Yeah, I would have liked the shades to be used in some regard. So if it was, she puts the shades on, and because that's a lot of technology in a contact lens, and maybe that shit exists. I don't know, but it's still very her, and using that to solve puzzles and stuff. Like when you had that big, massive Bane mixed with Killer Croc monster hunting you down. For the laser room, and you're using it to find out which buttons were pressed. The fingerprints. That's like such a cool way of solving puzzles, but still staying true to Ada and Ada's kind of character.
Yeah, and it was cool that it's like, okay, so the way Ada solves puzzles is very different to the way Leon solves puzzles. Leon has to go the much longer route of like looking for every note that gives him a clue, looking at the environment in that way, trying to figure it out based on what he can see in front of him. Ada can literally go, yep, there's the fingerprints. That's what was touched. Grand. Like she's quicker at these things, which is why her experience is shorter. Like she's getting through everything quicker.
Yes, and why she always knows more than she's ever going to let on, because she can just kind of like scan and see everything. She's always much more informed, because even with this one, she's definitely way more informed of what's going on, because Wesker is very well informed. Wesker is ridiculously well informed to then inform Ada to go in and do this.
Speaking of, he was featured at the end of the Resident Evil 4 remake, and we were all like, it's Wesker, because we hadn't seen Wesker yet in the remake canon.
No.
And we knew he'd be in this, obviously. He gives the commands. He's in it more than I thought he'd be.
He is.
He's actually in it.
He's physically in it.
To the point where I was like, am I gonna have to fight him at some point? Like,
I thought I was
leaning towards that, but obviously they're building up that, right? What did you think of this take on Wesker? Because obviously the person who's voicing him isn't doing an impression of like.
No, he's definitely doing just he's definitely doing his own thing. I like him now. It is still very, I am a villain. You can't trust me. Right. He's not
man is over. Yeah. The time of the Ouroboros has begun. Yeah.
He does pretty much say that. Yeah. So there's no sugarcoating this. He is straight up a villain. There's
of course
no way around it. Some of the dialogue is a bit like, Wesker, why are you telling a freelance mercenary your plan of slaughtering billions of people?
Yeah, especially when she goes, so like millions of people will die, billions of people will die. It's like, but why would you like? Don't undersell how evil my planet.
Yeah. You who still has my amber that's also like been
Yeah.
slightly second guessing me the whole time. I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you
With
I'm gonna
questionable
kill.
loyalties, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna be the worst than Hitler. It's just like,
Yeah, and then
all right,
as soon as she like doesn't do what he wants, he's like, Ada, 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 what am I gonna do with you? It's like,
I
oh
am
shucks.
I am shocked. Shocked at your decision, Ada.
Okay,
How do
well, I
you
did
not
not
agree
see
with
this
me?
coming.
Oh well,
But
I have
okay,
Krauser's body. Other than that, he's pretty
jokes
cool. I really
aside,
like him.
yeah.
Jokes aside, I have Krauser's body. I can actually still do my plan without the amber, so that's not necessary. But yeah,
So
I really like him. I don't like that he physically shows up because it's like, okay, you're physically showing up. Why are you not doing this yourself?
I wonder, is
You're-
that their way of trying to like? I don't know, it's only an arcadey thing anyway, but is that their kind of way of like canonizing the mercenaries mode? Like, you know, in mercenaries mode, if you're playing as Wesker, it's like, oh, this is Wesker while he's there and people try to attack him, so he's like making his way out of the village or something. I don't know. I
He
know
can play
it's a
as Hunk.
stretch.
He can play as Hunk in the mercenaries mode. He does not show up in this game at all.
Yeah, do you not remember when Hunk was in Resident Evil 4?
No.
No, John.
But
Yeah.
he's actually, I played as him in mercenaries mode. He is
Yeah.
very fun to play as.
Which one now, Hunk or Wesker?
Both.
Oh, which one was fun to play as? Both.
But yeah, I just both are
Both.
fun to play
Both
as.
is the answer to everything. Stop asking me
Yeah.
questions.
Both are very cool.
Yeah.
Like with Hunk, his big special ability is he gets infinite ammo, and like
Oh, nice.
he can one shot kill enemies in his melee attacks.
Great.
And then Wesker blocks attacks with just his hands, and his special move is he teleports and beats the shit out of everyone.
Jesus.
So he's awesome.
I
But
mean, I need to give them a go. I haven't actually
Yeah.
jumped into the mercenaries mode really.
It is fun mode. It is fun mode. I was waiting the whole time. You know, at the end, and he walks on the ship, and he's like, "Haha, nothing gets in the way of my evil plan." That for some reason all these other guys are following me to do, but it's like, nah, they're probably he's probably paying them well. But look at that ship, but like, that looks so pretty. I was just waiting for the red eyes, the glow.
Yeah, I actually thought, because especially when he said that line, like, "Oh, the sun was set on the age of man."
Yeah,
and it was kind of zooming up. I did think that it was just going to glow red under before cut to black.
Yeah,
which would have been pretty cool. But I have to say, I really like the new voice for Wesker.
Yes.
In fact, I prefer it. Yeah, I'm gonna put it out there. I prefer it to the iconic Wesker, and I think it's because like Wesker will always be. Wesker's an iconic villain in gaming, right?
Mm.
And he's a great villain, and he'll always be a cheesy villain. Like,
Yes.
it's never going to be a case where it's like, oh, Wesker is kind of complicated. Wesker's not complicated. Wesker is always just evil. Like, he's straight up evil. He's a genocidal maniac. Like, that's kind of his whole thing. And he's just the superhuman who wants to be above all else. But the voice made him even cheesier, I found, before. But I loved it. This voice was more sinister, though.
Yes. Okay. So
I liked it for that reason.
It is somewhat of a better performance because his lines don't come out as cheesy. They're still quite cheesy. They're still quite cheesy lines because the sun will set on the age of man. Like that is a cheesy line.
Yeah. But it's also badass.
But it's badass with this voice. I think it'd be like 10 times cheesier with
the original voice.
With the original voice. But I wouldn't mind villains having somewhat of a more like normal voice.
I know, but like it is also, but like it is Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we're here for, in a way. You know, I thought as well something that is worth shouting out is, as we said already, like the pacing of this DLC is excellent. I think it nearly benefits that, like, you fight nearly every enemy that Leon fought.
Mm-hmm.
But each scenario is unique because you only fight them once.
Yes.
And then you move on. They don't keep throwing them back in at you. And so I can remember the sequence now with the Armadoras because it's one room and you got to deal with them. you know, or I can remember the sequence with the Garador because it's one room and you got to deal with him.
Mm.
You know, same with like the chainsaw guys, or like they give each of those enemies one unique scenario that you got to deal with them, and then you move on. And I think it just kept the whole experience constantly moving forward, where it's like there's barely any enemies where it's like, oh, not them again. You know what I mean?
Right, because even the regenerators is only in one hallway. That's it.
Yeah, and fuck that hallway. Oh my god! As soon as those lights were twinkling, I was like, oh no. I mean, I knew this was coming, right? Because everything else has come back up. So of course, on the island, they're gonna give me the regenerators again. It was one of the more popular enemy type of the remake, I would say, in terms of like the shock value and everything. But when I got to and I got through most of them pretty okay. But when I got to the end of the hall and had that Iron Maiden,
Yeah.
I ended up running past it.
I actually ran all the way back just to give myself distance to be able to snipe him
Well, you
with
see,
the
I did that at first, and then I kept missing, and
oh
my reload speed wasn't fast enough, and he was
okay.
getting closer, closer. I got a few of them, but there was like two left that I didn't get, and I was like, "Fuck this!" And I got around him and then ran. I was like,
No,
"Okay, okay."
I killed them all.
Yeah, I bet you did. I got all the other ones. I think I got all the regenerators.
Did you get the one in the tank?
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
back to yeah, I actually had to go all
To
the
get the
way
beetle.
back. Yeah, I had to go all the
Yeah.
way back because I looked up. I was like, where the hell's this other beetle? And to look it up, and they're like, it's in the regenerator in this room. And I was like, fuck.
Funnily enough, I didn't do that thinking there was a beetle in him. I just killed him because I was preempting. I was like, right, if I don't kill him now, he's going to come out. So
Oh, yeah,
I'm
okay.
just going to do it now while the place is quiet. Like, because I don't know what scenario this is going to throw me into. So it was more of a preemptive thing that I decided to
I
kill
actually,
him.
to be honest, the first time I didn't see him in there. I was looking around going, oh, they're all dead because Leon must have taken care of these. Okay, I didn't see him in there.
Okay,
I just
okay,
kept
interesting.
going.
I looked at each one on purpose
All
because I
right,
was
okay.
expecting that to happen. Um, there's a moment. Oh, actually, what do you think of like at the like the finale where you're running against the clock to try and get to the red rocket launcher to then give it to Leon?
Oh, that was getting dicey. That was getting dicey
Right?
when I got to rocket launcher and I had to make my way back.
Yeah,
And then there was like tentacles and there was bugs, and there was guys with rocket launchers, then
yeah, yeah,
tentacles blocked my I was like, oh my god, this is get out of my way, move.
yeah. I thought it was a really like the music was cool as well though, and it
Mm,
was a really cool way of like instead of you just fighting a boss while the Sadler boss fights on, like I thought it was cool actually having that as the finale to the Separate
yes.
Ways DLC. I thought
Well,
it was cool.
yeah, I feel that that's more again. That's Ada. Leon is the taking on the big things, while Ada's in the background doing a lot more work than you even realize. Because
Yeah,
if she wasn't there, Leon's distracted with this big thing, and then he would have all those enemies swarming him.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Ada's like helping him out in the background. I think that again suits her because that's what she is, a
Did,
covert agent working in the shadows.
did you find that note that explains why the rocket launcher is red?
Oh yeah.
I think that's hilarious, but I love it. I love that they were like,
They
right, there's a story reason as to why this rocket launcher that can kill anything is red, and they're literally like, by the way, this is like so powerful. Like you should not be using this. We're not judging you, but we do not want to know what you plan to do with this.
yes, and I think they
You
bought
know?
multiple ones as well, and that's what really made them like,
Yeah, they were
huh?
like, what are you like? These things are crazy. um, there was a moment there at the end where Ada gets to talk to Ashley, and I felt that was one of the only interactions that was a little bit lackluster. I don't know. I thought it could have
But she kind
been.
of gets up there, and then Ada Ashley's like, help him, and then Ada was like, oh okay, and I was like, I thought she was doing that anyway.
She
I
is
thought that
doing it
was
anyway, so it's. I don't know. It felt like there could have been to get the voice actor for Ashley back in to deliver just one line seems a little bit of a waste of. It's like maybe they could have. Obviously, it's against the clock, so maybe that's not the place to put it. But there's
mm,
another lovely moment where if you're on the church at the towards the start of the
yes,
campaign, you can hear Ashley crying inside.
yeah,
I thought somewhere along the way there could have been a nice interaction between Ada and Ashley. I don't know what that is, but I feel like the one we got, there was no need for it.
No, not really. Nice for them to talk, but yeah, I suppose it's kind
That's what
of.
I mean. Like I would have liked them to talk, but when they're
I
against the
almost.
clock, this is not the time to do it. And to just say, "Can you help him?" Yeah, I am. That's not an interaction. That's just, that's just a. That's more of just a. Let's just acknowledge what you're doing right now.
Yeah. I did like hearing. Well, obviously, I didn't like hearing that she was crying, but I like that you could hear that.
No,
As
yeah,
like,
it's a really
yeah,
cool detail. Like I
yeah.
love that there's just little details throughout. Um,
I were actually when doing that. All right, ringing the bell. You hear Ashley crying. You cut down the nest to get the jewel or whatever was in it and stuff like. And then
mhm.
as I was leaving, I was like, "Oh yeah, shit! I rang the bell. Those guys are gonna come towards me." And I was like, "Oh, I bet there's a. I bet you completed one of those like challenges if you sneak past everyone." So I did. I perfectly snuck past everyone. I was like, "Fucking fair play to me." Turns out, no, the challenges wiped them all out. I was like, "Fuck!" I would
Okay.
have done that.
I took them all on. It was quite creepy though, because like a mist sort of descends upon you as they're all just sort of like walking towards the bell, and you're like, I actually kind of didn't think about it. I was like, all right, off to do the next thing, and then they're all coming. I was like, why are they? Oh yeah, I rang the fucking bell. Of course they're coming this way. They've been called to me. What? Why didn't I run? um, I have to ask this question because I love asking you these questions. What was your favorite part of the Separate Ways DLC?
Oh, favorite part of do 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 do. That's a good question because it's actually like you say, like each part is quite good because no part really overstays its welcome. No enemy overstays their welcome.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, like
just
that
I don't.
Corrado guy or whatever his name is, the guy with the claws. I messed him up.
Yeah,
I've messed him big time with the bow and everything like that.
I don't think there's any point in the DLC where it drags.
No, even like again, you're dealing with the bugs. It's fine. That
That's another thing that they put in that wasn't in the base campaign, which is the Leon, like
the sewers.
down in the sewers with the
Yeah,
invisible. Brilliant. Sorry, yeah, I
yeah.
just had
To
to.
put that back
You
in.
reminded me of that. Great.
I think to be honest, what they did with the black robed,
I'm right with you. Yeah,
I think just that doing that is well. I mean, like a lot of the stuff that they did, and it's quite clever. Again, having a reason for the red rocket launcher, having a reason for the lasers, having a reason for the like they had a history for the waterways that was built by one of Salazar's ancestors for a specific reason. So like they put so much thought
yeah, it's
into this.
amazing.
But that you know, he's not called a Verdugo, he's a Penestado or something like that. He has a
Yeah,
different name.
yeah,
But he's like he looks at the Verdugo. He's stalking you like it's Mr. X. He creates hallucinations like it's Benevito from 8,
oh yeah, yeah.
and then turns into a big monster at the end, like a classic Resident Evil villain. So I just thought he embodied a lot of classic kind of like characters from Resident Evil, and his story throughout it was very cool. As well as then Ada having to kind of work against the clock of slowly becoming infected.
Yeah, definitely my favorite element of this as well. Even though there was absolutely no low point, I think that addition was cool. It was something that I think, like, there was elements that we were expecting. We were expecting to fight it in this. We were
Mm.
expecting maybe because when you do fight Salazar, for example, the black robe doesn't show up. So and usually they mesh together in the original. So it's like whatever happened to the other black robed or the robed character.
Oh yeah.
So I think we expected him to show up in some way, but did not expect them to get such a big role and to become Ada's nemesis throughout this campaign. So I think the whole hallucinations thing while being infected was such a cool little thing to give Ada a little bit of like a personal investment in the mission, that she's not just following orders. Now she's at a point where it's like her survival is at stake.
Mm.
So it just made it a little bit more
That fight
little
with
bit more
Sadler,
personal.
that fight with Sadler actually
It was
is
great.
very cool. But my God, was that hard?
Yeah, he's tough. I think
He
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 was
should
harder
not.
there than he was when you're Leon.
Yeah, all of these Resident Evil villains should really stop mutating. They're harder when they're not mutated.
Yeah, there's less to shoot when they're not so big.
He shoots the bullets back at you and vomits like he does like Metal Gear Ray with his mouth by just projectile vomiting blackened acid at you. You know, like Ray sucks up
Yeah.
all the water and then that's what he does. Yeah. Oh my god, it was a tough fight, but it was a cool fight.
But I'd like to say on the DLC as well, I think what it does is because it has those bits that were missing,
Hmm.
it completes the experience.
Yes.
And I feel like that packaged with the base game makes Resident Evil 4 Remake my favorite Resident Evil game.
Oh, that's totally not bold words to say.
No, I mean it's probably not. I mean, lots of people
No.
are probably gonna be like, "Yeah, this is unreal." But I feel like a lot of people as well would like be like, "Oh, I just can't say it's better than the original because it's the original." You know what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
but I think they have surpassed it in a way that's just in a way that's so respectful of it. Like they've put so much of the original into it and
Hmm.
expanded it and made it more interesting. And I just think they've done such a fucking amazing job with this remake project. And to make Separate Ways more of a must play experience rather than just it's just some extra missions with Ada. Like,
Yeah.
but none of it really matters. Like, it's just so fucking cool. What I'd love to ask you now, before we just finish up.
What's my
Sorry, did you have something else to
favorite grass?
yeah,
What's
oh,
my
your favorite
favorite
blade of
treasure
grass.
there?
No, sorry. Did you have something else to say on the DLC overall before I go into this next bit?
No, I think you cover yeah, you covered it pretty much as far as DLCs go. This is phenomenal. Is this the only? No, there's been other expansion DLCs for Resident Evil games, but I think this is probably one of the better ones.
Well, I mean, the original Separate Ways was basically a DLC.
Basically, but like
It was
seven
only
had
included with the PS2 version, I think.
was it?
Yeah, it was not. It wasn't on the GameCube or anything. I don't think.
Oh,
So lots of people never played
oh,
the original Separate Ways, which is
wow,
interesting.
wow,
Yeah.
cool. Anyway,
Um, but the question I was going to ask was, obviously the end credit scene with Wesker, which we've talked about already. But when he's standing on the boat and they play the music from Resident Evil 5,
mm-hmm.
which I'm sure you noticed.
Actually didn't.
All right, the music that's playing there is, unless I'm mistaken, I'm like I know that music, and I don't know that game that well, but like that's from Resident Evil 5, right? Like I'm hearing it and I can picture him in the black jacket. Like
Coolest outfit ever.
that's definitely Resident Evil 5. Obviously, they are hinting strongly at Resident Evil 5 being the
Mm-hmm.
next one. Would you
Okay.
like the next one to be Resident Evil 5, or like what would you like?
No, I would rather they did.
No.
I would rather that. I'm not saying that don't do Resident Evil 5 at all. I'd rather they did Code Veronica first. We've now just had our first introduction of Wesker.
Mm.
We know that he has a big, dangerous plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need to get introduced to Wesker as the supernatural threat that he is, which happens in Code Veronica.
Yes.
And you're playing as Chris. So that would be the first time you were ever experiencing Chris. I know he's only at the end, but still. But then it's Claire. So they've done Leon and Claire, then Leon, now Claire, and then you do 5, where it's then Chris and you're dealing with Wesker.
Yeah.
Or what you could do is you can kind of do like a variation of 6, but with 5, and you make it good.
Right, yeah. What I would love to do or see, I think it is going to be 5. I think that is going to be the next one they do. Well, we'll probably get RE9 first, but this team, the remake team, I think it will be 5. I think that's the trajectory they're going with. But what I would love, which might confuse people, but I think it'd be amazing, is as you're saying, now we've gotten Wesker, the remake version of Wesker. He's clearly planning his next move. So I feel like we need to go back and explain the origins here. I would love the Wesker Redfield trilogy, beginning with Ori 1 Remake, followed up by Code Veronica, then followed by Resident Evil. Not as one game, by the way. These are 3 separate games.
Yeah.
Then it's all leading up to Resident Evil 5. So obviously the first game going way back to where the Wesker and Redfield,
Rivalry, yeah.
rivalry started. Chris is in that one. Then you jump to the next one that includes both Wesker and Chris, but it also has Claire from the Ori 2
Hmm.
remake. And then it climaxes with Resident Evil 5, where you play as Chris again, and you finally take on and kill Wesker. I think that would be sick. Plus, I think there is a big cry out, not only for a Code Veronica remake in the style of these remakes, but as much as everyone loves the Ori 1 remake that already exists, I think people would love to play that game in this style.
Yeah, because I tried playing it, that the one that they released. I found it very hard because it is quite dated in its gameplay mechanics, not necessarily in its graphics or anything like that, but in its
Oh, it looks
gameplay
beautiful.
mechanics. Yeah, but I think in that style would be so good.
Yeah, and like with the way this team expand on the stuff, like I'd love to see more of Lisa Trevor and the
And a
only thing is
genuine explanation for a shark.
well, here's the thing: if you're doing the first one, which is iconic, and it is actually one of the most important games ever made, as in it birthed the survival horror genre in gaming. I feel like you can't leave anything out.
No, you have to have the.
Which means spiders. I think everything would have to be in it. And it would probably be the scariest Resident Evil ever. Because if you have the lighting and graphics of modern Ori remakes, with those enemies in that house and that creepy lab and all that weird creepy atmosphere and shit, it'd be terrifying.
I think genuinely,
Mm.
yes, because I think that section with the spiders would be the scariest thing ever.
Yeah, because when you go down into those corridors and they're just covered in webs and you know it's coming, and how they might be animated this time around, and
Especially
then
if they, yeah, because like even that's just that little mission in Hogwarts Legacy when
oh
you have
yeah,
to
yeah,
go
yeah,
in,
yeah.
yeah, like that was. I was so like when I was like when they're all just like walking around, you could feel them on me. And there's that one bit where the one giant spider, you can start doing that stuff in this game.
Mm.
You can start seeing like their legs move in the distance. Oh god, that'd be horrible.
And just like Lisa Trevor is
Oh,
scary anyway, so
just hearing her, does she like moan or croak
yeah,
or weep
yeah,
or whatever sound she's doing? You just hearing
horrible.
that, and you're hearing the chains, and then
Yeah,
like see her shadow. Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's
that'd be
what
cool.
I would love to see. I'd love them to do now it's like they've just introduced Wesker and now do like the Wesker Redfield trilogy that culminates in 5. But I think it's more likely that they are just going to do Resi 5, which I'd still be interested to see what they do as a remake, because I think they could. Resi 5 was a fun game, but it had a lot of problems for a Resident Evil game, and I think they could make
See,
it much better.
my only issue with doing that is you've just introduced Wesker. If this is the first time people are playing Resident Evil games, which is 2, 3, and 4 now, okay, they are going to be able to like, who's this guy? I'm intrigued in this guy. And then if the next one you do is 5 and he has superpowers all of a sudden and then he dies, you're like, okay, it obviously was
Right,
nothing.
but you would get his backstory through the course of that game, and for those players, it would feel no different than the experience you had with Sadler in Ori 4. It's just that we have such a knowledge and history of Wesker that you would want him to be given way more gravitas than just a one game thing.
Yes, but then you're also playing as Chris and Sheva, and if you don't know who the hell, I know obviously no one knew who Sheva was, but with Chris, it's like this is the guy killing Wesker when clearly they established that Wesker and Ada have the, you know what I mean? Like I agree with your plan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Because first you get more money, secondly you make your fans happy, and thirdly then you're building up to Wesker dying
In that volcano.
in that of course.
Like,
Where
even it,
with Chris punching the
you would
boulder.
absolutely still punch a boulder.
It's canon because in 8, your
No,
man
like,
describes him as
like you would have to.
yes.
You know, what would be interesting to see is if they still
You
make
kill Wesker by punching a boulder on him.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see would they still make it co-op. but
I wouldn't. I would
I
do.
know, but like if it's such a core part of the game, and they seem to be really like. It's not like they just take elements from other games and put like Ori 2 was made with the structure of scenario A and scenario B because that's the way the original was done.
Mm,
Ori 4 was very faithful. I can't speak on Ori 3, I haven't played it. And I know that was a different team as well. And there's, people have various different thoughts on the Ori 3 remake. Um, so I feel like with revisiting Ori 5, it's not a case of it is a how do we make this better, but I feel like they would be like, we have to at least consider co-op because that
oh
was a
yeah,
huge makeup of that game.
and a lot of people enjoyed that aspect.
Yeah, yeah.
It made the game enjoyable for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I say you could probably still make that quite scary because I think in
Of
the
course you could. The
original,
fucking executioner.
yeah, in the original, there was that item management concept. Like you had to share bullets. Like when if I picked, like, let's say both of us were playing, if I picked the bullets, you didn't get them. So I
Mm-hmm.
suppose there's that element that, like, if we were both playing it, and if they just made it nighttime for longer, and yeah, you had like your executioner, you had to ganada done. Well, they're not ganados in that. I can't remember what they're called in that one, but they're hunting you down and stuff, and you have to try share resources. I think that could be still quite scary, but then fun
Yeah, yeah, they
for a
could
lot
make
of
it
people.
work. They could make it work. But
Hmm.
guys, we'd love to hear from you. What would you like to see from the Resident Evil remake series going forward? Do you want them to jump straight into 5, or would you ideally love them to now go back and touch on one of the other ones that they've missed along the way? What would you love to see from the remakes? And what did you think of Separate Ways? What was your highlights of the DLC? Did you enjoy the DLC? We'd love to hear all your thoughts. If you're watching YouTube, jump down in the comments to share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this discussion, give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, or ring the notification bell for all future content, including future bonuses like this that aren't like scheduled every week, that just happen as one-offs whenever appropriate. If you guys listen to us on audio platforms, you can also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twixter at The Brothers Take, again, to give your take on Separate Ways and where the Resident Evil Remake series is going to go next. But that's going to be it for this week's bonus. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back to talk to you guys next time. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.